Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. We unearth those fascinating, often mind-bending insights you won't hear anywhere else.
And today we're looking at something pretty fundamental, the ancient philosophy of saving.
Right, our wisdom comes from a really interesting source. Quol nunzai sombitit kim thritunde cult a thin vung treatli quick sung. Now that roughly translates to ancient people teach living, knowing how to save these three things for a prosperous life philosophy. Quite a mouthful, but powerful stuff.
It really is. And what's striking, I think, is how broad this ancient view is. It's saying saving isn't just, cash in the bank.
No, it's much bigger.
Much bigger. It's about securing genuine happiness, real prosperity throughout your whole life. That's quite different from how we often think about it today, isn't it?
Absolutely. So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most practical, maybe even surprising insights from these ancient ideas. We want to show you how these timeless principles might actually help you build a more meaningful, abundant life, especially now in our, pretty overwhelming buy now, worry later world. So let's just jump right in. We all know saving is important, right? But let's be honest, most of us find it incredibly hard. So today, we're not just talking about why it's vital, but really digging into the psychology behind it, the barriers, and maybe some surprising ancient ways to tackle this universal struggle.
Yeah, and it is a struggle. You see it in the numbers. The source mentions a survey, and something like 80% of people felt earning money is difficult.
80%? That's huge.
It is. And here's the kicker. A big chunk of those same people, also deep in debt, it really shines a light on a common, but honestly, pretty dangerous idea.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Is it that saying money is not saved, but earned? You hear that everywhere.
That's the one. Sounds good. Very proactive.
Yeah, kitschy, but how does this ancient wisdom push back against that? What's the real risk of just living by that phrase alone?
Well, it offers a really crucial counterpoint. It basically says, look, if you don't earn a lot and you don't save anything, life gets incredibly tough, just a constant struggle.
Right.
And this leads to what the source calls the illusion of wealth. So there's this story, quite compelling actually, about a teacher, Andrew Harum. He was tutoring this family, living in a fancy villa in Singapore, expensive cars, the whole 9 yards.
Looked rich.
Totally. But when he went to cash his paycheck, it bounced. Their bank account was completely empty.
Wow.
It's just a really stark, kind of painful reminder that all that surface level luxury, it's often just self-deception. You're spending a future you haven't even earned yet.
Oof, that's a serious wake-up call. And the source really drives this point home, doesn't it? It says something like, the suffering of adults often begins with a lack of money. That's quite blunt.
It is blunt, and it backs it up with heartbreaking examples. There's a character, Vu, from a drama called 1 Year Without Work. Her mother needs urgent cancer treatment.
Oh, no.
And she has zero savings. Utterly helpless. Or, real life stories of people abandoning critical medical care because they just can't pay. Even kids leaving school because of poverty. It's devastating.
It really puts things in perspective.
Exactly. So zooming out, the source emphasizes that saving, month by month, year by year, it's not just about numbers. It's like building a strong shield.
A shield against what, exactly?
Against all those unexpected risks life throws at you. A health crisis, losing your job, an economic downturn. When those curveballs come, savings can literally be the difference between, despair and having some stability.
So that shield, it's not just financial. It's about dignity, self-respect almost, which feels very different from just flashing wealth. It makes me think of Oscar Wilde, When I was young, I thought money was the most important thing. Now that I am old, I know that it is.
Right, there's that famous quote. But the source contrasts it interestingly with a story from The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about this multimillionaire who chooses to eat at some small, modest restaurant instead of a fancy hotel. It perfectly illustrates that real wealth isn't necessarily about splashing cash around.
It's more subtle.
Much more subtle. It's about consistent saving, accumulation, and frankly, the quiet confidence of living within your means without feeling ashamed about it.
And it's fascinating how much this ancient idea connects with what people are struggling with right now.
Totally. Like on social media, there's been a lot of talk among the 90s generation. The source mentions over 99% admitting they're stressed, overwhelmed by debt. Like half their salary just goes straight to repayments.
Half their salary, that's crushing.
It is. It shows just how fragile many people's financial situations are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually heard a story from a friend recently. Her husband got completely sucked into that enjoy now, pay later mindset. Yeah, constantly going out for expensive meals, buying designer stuff for the kids, always with the justification, life is short, enjoy. But predictably, it just led to more and more debt and eventually just real despair. It's such a destructive cycle.
It really is. And the source brings in another quote, this time from a famous actor, who said something like, "I like money because I know what it felt like not to have money. I only know its advantages." And that really hits home the idea that knowing how to save, developing that discipline, it's actually the greatest form of dignity. It gives you options, choices, real freedom, much more than any fancy purchase ever could.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, the pain of not saving. But this ancient wisdom doesn't just diagnose the issue, right? It offers solutions, a kind of three-part strategy to, well, not just save money, but really guard your financial well-being.
Exactly. And the first one is perhaps the most fundamental. Embrace simple living and reasonable consumption.
Simple living, okay.
Yeah. The source uses this great analogy, comparing unchecked desire to drinking seawater.
The more you drink.
The thirstier you get. Exactly. It's a losing game.
That's a powerful image. How does that translate into practical advice, though, especially today when we're bombarded with ads?
Well, it draws on ideas like those in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Yeah.
The core principle is, to control your money, you have to actively manage it. But the ancient wisdom adds a layer, suggesting the trick isn't just cutting expenses, but doing it mindfully.
Mindfully.
Yeah, being really intentional. Recognizing that every small, unnecessary purchase is like a tiny leak in your financial boat. It's about conscious awareness, not just brute force cutting.
I like that. Mindfulness with money. Okay, what's the second piece of ancient wisdom?
This one's about elevating your circle and investing in yourself. There's a powerful proverb mentioned. Work hard to earn money so that your feelings and life are not tested by other people's money.
Wow, not tested by other people's money. That really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It fundamentally asks, where are your most precious resources going? Your time, your energy, your money. The source suggests reducing what it calls low-quality social interactions, those things that just drain your resources without giving much back. Instead, you redirect that time and money towards self-improvement.
So less keeping up with the Joneses, more investing in yourself.
Precisely. Prioritizing your own growth, your own financial stability, rather than, performing for others or getting stuck in social loops that don't really benefit you.
That resonates. Okay, and the third piece of wisdom, it mentions something about magical savings through expense tracking. Magical sounds optimistic.
Wow, maybe a little. But the point is, this simple act is surprisingly powerful because it creates awareness.
Oh, so?
Just diligently writing down where your money goes helps you clearly see your true needs versus, well, those impulsive wants. It makes the invisible visible.
Okay, so tracking clarifies things.
Yes. And the source also emphasizes the power of moving savings into a separate account regularly. It creates a psychological hurdle, makes it harder to just dip into it.
Right, out of sight, out of mind, like we said.
Exactly. And there's a great quote from Balzac mentioned here. For the extravagant, money is round, but for the thrifty, money is flat and can be pieced together bit by bit.
So it highlights that discipline, the slow and steady accumulation, like building with flat bricks, not round coins that roll away.
Precisely. It underscores that building wealth is usually a gradual, consistent process.
So saving is definitely a journey. And the source implies this isn't just about being smart in the modern sense, but about a kind of deeper wisdom relevant at every stage of life.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating is how it breaks down this journey by age. For instance, in your 20s.
Okay, the starting point.
Yeah, the source is quite reassuring, actually. It says being broke or even in debt in your 20s is pretty common. Don't beat yourself up about it.
That's good to hear.
But the critical thing is to start recognizing the value of earning and saving. The advice, try to save at least 10% of what you earn each month.
Just 10%. Start small.
Start small. Build the habit. And importantly, start learning the difference between assets, things that make you money, and liabilities, things that cost you money. Invest in knowledge, not just stuff.
Got it. Solid foundation in the 20s. Then what about the 30s? Life often gets more complicated then.
It does. That's often when careers take off, which is great. But it also brings bigger financial responsibilities, right? Marriage, maybe buying a home, car loans, kids.
Yeah, the pressure mounts.
Definitely. And the source stresses how vital it is to keep that saving habit going, even with higher expenses. Fidelity, for example, suggests a target of having savings equal to about half your annual income by age 30.
Half your annual income, okay.
Again, the exact number depends on your context, but the idea is that multiple. Focus on clearing debt, boosting your income if you can, and just making smart spending choices. It's a crucial building phase.
Makes sense. Then the 40s. Careers might be more stable, but maybe income growth slows down a bit.
That can happen. And this, according to the source, is a really key time to ramp up saving even more. Why? Because often there's less societal pressure to, show off with spending compared to your younger years.
Ah, interesting. You can focus more on accumulating.
Exactly. The recommendation here is aiming for savings equal to about 3 years' salary.
3 years? Wow.
Yeah, it's about building a serious safety net, preparing for big things like maybe changing careers, buying another property, or funding your kids' higher education. Thinking ahead.
Okay. And then the 50s. The source says the challenge shifts here.
It does. It shifts more from purely earning to strategically preserving the wealth you've built. There might be temptations, maybe starting a new business or making big purchases.
Right.
But the source emphasizes the absolute need for a solid contingency fund. It's about protecting what you've worked hard for.
So what's the savings target for the 50s?
The suggestion is aiming for savings equal to about 6 years of income.
6 years. Okay.
And he uses Warren Buffett as a great example here. We see his enormous wealth now, but we often forget it was built over decades of consistent, disciplined saving and investing, starting young. It wasn't overnight.
That's a really important reminder in our instant gratification world. Okay, finally, the 60s. Retirement looming or already started?
Right. And naturally, your ability to earn income usually declines at this stage, so the savings targets get higher. The source suggests aiming for 8 times your annual income.
8 times.
Or even 10 to 11 times if you plan to retire a bit later, maybe between 65 and 67.
And the key message here?
Self-reliance. The source really underlines that depending solely on your kids or pensions can be risky. It's about ensuring you have the means for a comfortable, dignified retirement that you control.
We've covered a lot of concepts and numbers, but let's bring it to life. The source apparently tells a story about 2 women, Miss Elan and Miss Foam.
Yes, it's a really effective contrast. 2 colleagues, both retired, but their later lives turned out vastly different, all because of their approach to saving.
Okay, tell us about Ms. Elan first.
So Ms. Lin was the prudent one. She consistently saved throughout her career. She invested sensibly, government bonds, funds, some stocks.
Built it up steadily.
Exactly. By the time she hit 50, she had enough saved to help her children buy their own homes, and she still had plenty left for her own retirement. Her life sounded comfortable, secure. She could even afford a nanny for her grandkids, and her house was apparently always full of happy family visits.
That sounds like a pretty ideal retirement. What about Mrs. Foom?
Well, Miss Fu was the opposite. She lived completely for the moment, spent freely. The source mentions she was the first person in her office unit to buy a car back in the day. That was her style.
The enjoy now philosophy we talked about.
Totally. But the consequences came later. She ended up deep in debt just trying to pay for her son's wedding. And then, the really heartbreaking part, her husband needed urgent surgery.
And she couldn't afford it.
She couldn't. The source describes how this led to immense shame, tension with her children. Just a really difficult, stressful situation, all stemming from that lack of financial planning.
Wow. That story just powerfully illustrates the difference savings can make. It's not just numbers, it's dignity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dignity, peace of mind, the ability to support your family, yes, but also crucially, not become a burden yourself in old age. It allows you to maintain independence and have those joyful family interactions, not ones strained by money worries.
Okay, so saving money is clearly vital, but the ancient sages didn't stop there, did they? They talked about saving 3 things, money was just one.
That's right. The first and maybe the most critical asset they tell us to save is our health.
Health is something you save. Interesting framing.
It is, and the point is, once your health is truly gone, it's incredibly hard, maybe impossible to get back, no matter how much time or money you spend later.
Yeah, you can't buy good health once it's broken.
Exactly. The source shares a story, kind of a warning, about an advertising professional, worked insane hours, pulled all-nighters constantly, totally neglected himself.
Burnout culture.
Textbook case. He ended up having a brain hemorrhage. Thankfully, it was minor, but it was a huge shock, a life-altering event that forced him to reconsider everything.
It really brings home that saying, apart from life and death, everything else is trivial. We hear it, but do we live it?
That's the question. The source pushes for those basic foundational things. Getting enough sleep, managing stress, regular exercise. It's like preventative maintenance on your most valuable, absolutely non-renewable asset. You have to save it proactively.
Okay, save health. What's the second treasure then?
The second is money itself, but specifically framed as preparing for those rainy days. It's about foresight,
Even when things are good.
especially when things are good, like the wise grandmother preparing for storms even when the sun is shining. Don't get complacent.
Is there another story attached to this one?
Yes, another cautionary tale. A young woman living a very flashy, expensive life, racking up credit card debt left and right.
Looks successful on the outside.
Right, but then a family medical emergency hit suddenly, and she had nothing saved. Zero. She was thrown into complete despair, desperately trying to borrow money from anyone she could.
Awful.
It just highlights that stark truth again. No money is the bitterest sorrow in life. It really can consume everything when you're facing a crisis.
Okay, so save health, save money for rainy days. What's the third treasure we need to save?
This one might be surprising. It's love, or more broadly, relationships.
Save relationships. How does that work?
The source warns us not to take good relationships for granted. It uses the analogy that clapping requires two hands.
Ah, you can't sustain it alone.
Exactly. One hand can't make a sound. Relationships need active participation, nurturing, effort from both sides. You have to actively save them from neglect.
Is there an illustration for this?
Yeah, it mentions a scene from a movie, Goodbye, Mr. Loser. The main character, only after losing the person who truly loved him, has this dream where he realizes the depth of his regret, how he just failed to cherish her, took her completely for granted.
That classic, you don't know what you've got till it's gone scenario.
Precisely. And the underlying message is, while the human heart can be strong, it's also delicate. If you consistently hurt or neglect it, that connection might break and that person might just move on for good.
So it's asking us, are you actively investing in or saving your important relationships, or just letting them fade?
That's the challenge it poses, yes.
Okay, so we've got saving health, money, and relationships. Sounds like a lot of holding back, a lot of not spending or not taking things for granted. But then the ancient wisdom throws a curveball, doesn't it?
It does. This is where it gets really counterintuitive. It suggests there are actually certain types of spending that can make you richer in the long run.
Spending makes you richer. Okay, I'm listening.
Huh? Yeah, it's intriguing. The source outlines 3 specific kinds of spending that, instead of draining your resources, can actually lead to greater wealth and fulfillment. The first one is spending on your parents. Filial piety.
Taking care of your elders.
Yes. It's presented not just as a duty, but as a natural expression of gratitude for everything they've done.
And it stresses it's not about how much money you spend.
Right, exactly. It's the intention, the heartfelt care that matters. And interestingly, the source notes that these acts of kindness towards parents can actually improve family harmony and even subtly boost your reputation in the community or in business. It builds goodwill.
Okay, that makes sense. Spending on parents. What's the second type of good spending?
Investing in yourself, specifically in your knowledge and skills.
Ah, back to self-improvement.
Yes, but framed as an investment. The source calls this the most meaningful, the safest, and ultimately the highest return investment you can possibly make. Its benefits aren't limited by time, and they compound throughout your life.
So it's about increasing your own intrinsic value, not just acquiring external things.
Precisely. It leads to better work opportunities, a richer understanding of the world, personal growth. It can even positively affect your confidence, how you carry yourself, your health. It emphasizes that learning never stops, and investing in your knowledge is the bedrock for lifelong growth.
Okay, invest in parents, invest in self. What's the third type of spending that makes you richer?
This one is about giving back to society through charity and nurturing your close relationships, your true friendships.
Giving money away makes you richer. How does that logic work?
It quotes Robert Kiyosaki here. Givers trust that money must first be given out to be returned. It's about fostering a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. It encourages contributing to those less fortunate. Even if you don't have much money, offering genuine gratitude or help is valuable. And crucially, it talks about supporting your true friends, not just with emotional support, but materially too, if they're genuinely in need and you're able to help.
That asks a tough question, though. Who are your true friends worth that kind of investment?
It does. It implies you need discernment there. But the core idea is that this kind of generosity, this mutual support, builds incredibly strong bonds. And that network of goodwill often brings unexpected opportunities and support back to you down the line. It creates a positive cycle.
Okay, this is fascinating. So how do we actually pull all this together? How do we master this ancient art of saving and maybe even smart spending in our crazy modern lives?
Well, Kiyosaki's quote sums it up again, doesn't it? The problem is not how much money you earn, but how much you keep. That's the fundamental shift in perspective.
Right. Keeping it is the skill. So what are the practical takeaways? What can someone listening right now actually do?
The source offers some really concrete strategies. First off, automate your savings.
Make it automatic.
Yes. Set up those regular transfers, maybe 15%, 20% of your income, straight into a separate savings or investment account before you even see it. It takes the willpower out of the equation.
Out of sight, out of temptation. I like it. What else?
Second, actively fight lifestyle creep. You know, when you get a raise and suddenly your spending just magically increases to match it.
Oh yeah, that's easy to fall into.
Very easy. The advice here is, when you get a raise, commit to saving a good chunk of it, maybe at least a third, before you adjust your spending habits. Don't just let your expenses inflate automatically.
Smart. Keep the savings rate growing with your income. Okay, what's number 3?
Focus on the long term. Really prioritize those big, meaningful goals like retirement, or maybe saving for a house over the instant gratification of, say, the newest phone or a fancy car you don't truly need.
Delayed gratification. Hard, but crucial.
It is. Fourth, and we touched on this, keep investing in your financial literacy. Continuously learn about personal finance, about investing wisely. Money's a tool. You need to learn how to use it effectively. Don't just bury your head in the sand.
Be proactive about understanding money.
Exactly. And finally, maybe the most important, figure out your why.
Your motivation.
Yes. Define your specific personal reasons for saving. Is it freedom, security, helping your family, traveling, whatever it is? Having a clear, compelling purpose makes the whole process much easier. It turns saving from a chore into, well, a mission. What's your powerful why? That's a question for everyone listening.
That's a great point. So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into ancient wisdom really brings it home, doesn't it? Living a life where you consciously save isn't just about getting rich in terms of money.
Not at all. It's much deeper. It's about cultivating, mental peace, tranquility, maybe even a kind of spiritual richness.
Right. So the core message, those 3 pillars again.
Save your health. It's irreplaceable. Save your time by focusing your energy wisely on what truly matters. And yes, save your money, build that foundation for a secure, independent future.
It really suggests that money, while important, is just a tool. It doesn't define you. The real value isn't in chasing status or comparing yourself to others.
No, the real value lies in using that tool wisely. Building that secure base so you have the freedom, the breathing room to pursue what actually matters to you, to live a life with purpose, with dignity, and that kind of wealth. Well, you can't put a price on that.